Good morning. Meditating on the life of the city of God, and the second part of this really badly titled pair of talks called The Politics of the City. Before I go any further, I should apologise. It's always better to choose the title after you've done the talk. When I mean politics, I just mean the practice, the things that we do in the city that will happen in the future, and which are connected quite a lot to the things that we do in this city, the city of mankind. Anyway, starting from Revelation 21, verse 23 onwards, this wonderful vision of Jerusalem that has come down out of heaven to earth, the city of God. The city does not need the sun or the moon to shine on it, for the glory of God gives it light, and the Lamb is its lamp. The nations will walk by its light, and the kings of the earth will bring their splendour into it. On no day will its gates ever be shut, for there will be no night there. The glory and honour of the nations will be brought into it. Nothing impure will ever enter it, nor will anyone who does what is shameful or deceitful, but only those whose names are written in the Lamb's book of life. Well, the imagery is fairly straightforward. It's of a great city with the produce, the good produce, the best of the nations being imported into the city. I suppose the model is Rome with its port of Ostia and the endless cargoes going into Rome from all over the world. The glory and honour of the nations will be brought into the city. Now we've seen that the architect and builder of the city is God, but the city will be decorated, embellished, enhanced and completed by the works of mankind. So it's God's city, but it's full of the treasures of humanity. Now we're living in the city of men, we're living in Babylon the Great, we're not there yet. And of course Babylon must fall. The city of men must give way so that the city of God can come down from heaven. But that doesn't mean that everything in this life is corrupt. That doesn't mean that the city of men has nothing worth admiring or copying. There are rays of light in this city. There are things that we should imitate and that we should follow, even in this fallen world. Now I say that because I think Christians are prone to thinking that they have nothing to gain, nothing to learn, no wisdom to glean from their neighbours. After all, their neighbours have wrong beliefs and sometimes they have questionable practices. But I think that there are many Christians who are failing to learn life's lessons because they're failing to pay attention. It's an illusion to think that we're so spiritual that there is no wisdom, no goodness outside of us and our circle. Yes, we're born again, and yes, we do have our Bibles. But in fact, there's a lot to be learnt from outsiders. And this is why I'm trying to say that in the city of men there are treasures, and those treasures are meant to be brought into the city of God. I'm going to read from Philippians 4 again, the last two verses of the section I thought about yesterday. Philippians 4 verse 8 and verse 9. Finally, brethren, whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are honest, whatsoever things are just, whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are of good report, if there be any virtue, if there be any praise, think on these things. Those things which ye have both learned and received and heard and seen in me, do, and the God of peace shall be with you. I'm reading from the King James today because it's a nice punchy, straightforward rendering of those two verses. Now verse 8 I used to dislike. This one about thinking on lovely, true, good things. And I, thinking back, I think the reason I disliked it was because at the age of 21 I was converted to the Christian faith out of a very unchurchy family life and background. And I was listening to other young men who mainly had either been converted younger or from just grown up in church, and they were telling me that this was all about how to improve my thought life. If you haven't heard the term, you haven't missed a lot. But the idea of the thought life was that if you got your thoughts right, then your life would somehow come good as well. And these were earnest young Christian men, and they were worried about their thought life. They felt that it was wrong and impure. Well, young men have hot tempers, aggressive natures sometimes, strong sexual desires, and often vivid imaginations. And I suppose if their thought life, their inner thoughts and machinations went up on a screen somewhere, it would be highly embarrassing. And they had unwanted and shameful fantasies flitting through their minds. Ideas were popping up which were deeply dishonourable. And this verse was meant to cure the problem. It was meant to tell them how to think. So I associated Philippians 4:8 with a slightly narcissistic internal battle with bad and naughty thoughts. Fortunately, I had some good Bible teaching, and that showed me that these verses are not really about what you think, although it says think on these things. What it's really about is what you imitate, what you copy, and what you live by. These are things that you will find all over this fallen city of men. They are things which are going to be redeemed and are capable of redemption. They are good things. They are, theologically speaking, works of God's common grace, and God's common grace is at work in all kinds of places. It's very rarely absent. And so everywhere and in surprising places you will come across things that are true, that are honourable, that are lovely and worth copying. So verse 8 talks about thinking, but verse 9 talks about doing. Paul says particularly, whatever I've done that is worth copying, copy it. So in verse 8, when it says think on these things, I think it's saying something more than just, if you like, improve your thought life. Northerners used to have an expression, I don't know if they still use it, think on, or think on't. And what that was usually something you heard at the end of a challenge or a rebuke to say that you were doing something wrong. Think on. And the idea there is think on so that you change. Think on and ponder so that you can do better. It's a challenge to reconsider your behaviour. And I hope they still use it, because I think it's a really good little phrase. The Christian life is meant to be lived. This is why I called it about politics, and it's not really about politics, but it is about action. It's about what we do. If you have a philosophical turn of mind, you may have figured out already that I'm saying that the Christian is more of an existentialist than an idealist. It's not about what you think, it's about what you do, because what you do is a better reflection of who you are. So think on these things so that you do them. Open your eyes, look around you. Where do you see people doing or saying things that are true, things that are honest, things that are just or pure, even lovely, things that are good to report, things that are virtuous, things that are praiseworthy and worth praising? I've deliberately chosen those categories that you find there in Philippians 4:8. you will see them in strange places. You will see them in the person who is doing their job in the city with a certain amount of joy and grace, who are doing more than they have to do for other people, who are sacrificing a bit, giving a bit, loving a bit, more than they have to. Wherever, in other words, you see gracious, good things, think on them. Once you start looking, you'll see them all over the place. And as you think on them, do them. Copy the virtues of your unbelieving neighbour. Copy the good actions of your atheist friends. Imitate your Muslim and Hindu acquaintances whenever they do what is good, what is true, what is honourable, whatever is righteous. And remember that the city of God is made of such things. Such actions are the politics, if you like, of that city. Well, that's my meditation for today. I hope it helps, and I hope that you will enjoy being blessed by the good God who has given you the gift of life. Bye for now.